Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, your friend in hockey, and it just keeps getting more incredible for me as the hockey host, being here for so long doing this. And every once in a while, you get somebody that you grew up watching, and actually, like I said, I bought your jersey just because Kevin Stevens, longtime Pittsburgh Penguin. You spent time with the Rangers. Yeah. I mean, you've had an amazing career. I love that we had the same last name. It made it super easy for me to get a Rangers jersey with my name on it without having to pay to have it customized.
No, it's all good. No, it's we had a great career. I was lucky enough, like I said, I started out in Pittsburgh and played with some great players, and our teams were amazing. My line mates were amazing. I was lucky enough to play with Lemieux and Yager, and that was just a couple of the guys they played. Trottier was out there, Coffey was out there, Barrasso, Tocchet, Mullen, Recchi. There was so many guys that I was lucky enough to play with. But
can we start like where you're from and where your youth hockey?
I'm from Boston, Mass. So I'm from the Massachusetts area. I grew up playing youth hockey. I'm about 45 minutes south of Boston. I grew up playing in Pembroke, which back then there was no junior teams. I played for my town. I played baseball. I played hockey when it was hockey season. I played baseball when it was baseball season. I played football when it was football season. So I was a 4-month athlete, growing up all the way through high school, basically.
That's something you definitely don't hear anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because I had my kids who were kind of doing that for a little while, but then, as they got to about ninth grade, they had to go play hockey all the time. But I was lucky. I grew up in a great area. It was a good hockey area, too. It was when the Bruins and Bobby Orr were growing up, and I was kind of in that era with the big bad Bruins, so it was fun. But it was, I'm boss. I still live out that way, and I work here with the Penguins, but I'm still in the Boston area.
And you're Boston College?
Yep, I went to BC, which another great spot. Had great teams there. I think we 3 out of the 4 years I was a top team in the country for most of those years, but never won a national championship.
Oh, wow.
Never got to the Final Four once in Detroit and got beat. But those college NCAA tournaments, those one game, we could never win the one game. We'd always get beat by another team, and a goalie got hot or something, and we could never get over the hump. But I finally did in Pittsburgh. But BC was great. I went from BC, then kind of worked out. I went to the Olympic team in 1988, and that was in Calgary, and that was. The Olympics were the big thing back then because of the 80 team, right?
Right.
So 1980 was when they won the gold medal there. That was everybody wanted to play for the Olympics. So there was the 84 team and then the 88 team. And then, I was lucky enough my college career kind of finished, and I guess I could have went to Pittsburgh, but that Olympic year was a huge building year for me, like a huge stepping stone.
When you played it for the Olympic team back then, you got put on that team and you played other NHL teams?
Yeah, we played, and we were still all amateurs. So it was still when it was the amateurs. Now obviously the pros play and stuff like that. But we were all amateurs, and we got together. We got together in August. We played all right up to the Olympics were in February, so we played like 6-month schedule where we played NHL teams, we played college teams, went overseas and played in different tournaments against the other countries. And it was so much fun for 5 or 6 months there, traveling together. We were college kids, we didn't know anything, but we'd travel around the world together, playing with each other, practicing 3 or 4 hours a day. That was really the first time where you got to be able to just play hockey. We didn't have to worry about school. You didn't have to worry about anything. We used to get up, go to this place where, we had a place where we trained a lot in Lake Placid, and that's in the facilities that the Olympic team played in. So it was really, really a great experience. And I had some of my best friends. I just got into that USA Hockey Hall of Fame this year too, and all my 88, about 14 or 15 of the 88 guys showed up for that. I haven't seen them. You think you're going to see these guys all the time because
right.
But everybody's from all over the place, so you don't really get to see them as much. And
but you get that tight bond where you figure you are. And first off, congratulations on the Hall of Fame. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was, and you do have that tight bond. It doesn't matter. Like, after 5 minutes spending time in that room with those guys, it felt like we were together. It felt like it was August of 1988, when we were kind of waiting to play the Olympics, because everything comes back so quick, and you build a relationship with these guys, and Yeah, that was amazing. That was an amazing team. A great bunch of guys, and we had great players too. We just that's when the Russians were the Russians still, and the Czechs were the Czechs. And we had Richter and Terreri, our two goalies, who were great goalies. Yeah, and and we needed them to be Jim Craig, and they couldn't be Jim Craig that way. They had great pro careers, both of those guys, and both great goalies, great guys too.
Mike Richter is one of my all-time favorites. And then here's a weird tie-in. I'm from Salt Lake, and as I'm growing up, and I start playing hockey my sophomore year in high school, and I'm just wearing the old brown leather leg pads that you get, the old Coopers, and I make the team at Shattuck St. Mary's.
Wow,
and they're like, so my junior year I'm moving, and they're like, the equipment you have is not is not going to cut it here. And I'm like, well, I'm barely able to afford to go to the school, let alone buy new gear. But the equipment manager for the Golden Eagles at the time also helped with the Olympics.
Oh, wow.
And he said, hey, I got this set of, I think they were New Jersey colored Brian's pads from Chris Terreri.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want these?
That's
and I'm
funny.
like, yeah, how much? He's like, just give me like $400 because it was, he was just selling them out of the back of the truck, basically. I probably shouldn't throw him under the bus like that, but so
That's funny.
I just instantly bonded with Chris Terreri, and then later I got Sean Burke's pads, and I have the playing cards for Chris Terreri and Sean Burke wearing the pads that I ended up wearing at Shattuck, and then my first year in college.
That's awesome. Terreri, I'll tell you, Terreri, he was an amazing goalie. We played him. When I talked about BC, we played he went to Providence, so we played them in the Final Four. We played them in the Hockey's finals. They beat us in triple overtime. He made 65 saves that weekend.
Wow.
Then we go. They end up. We lost. They won the Hockey's, but we get invited. We make it to the Final Four. So now we got to play him again the next weekend. They beat us in double overtime. He made 62 saves. He made 130 saves in 2 games. They beat us both times, and he was the most amazing college goalie. He made the run he got on then was the most amazing. I've never seen a goalie play that well over a stretch of 2 weeks like he played, and they beat us both times. And they had like 26 shots, 28 shots. We had 63 and 65. And
who was your goalie?
our goalie was Sean Reel at college. He wasn't a. And then we had Scotty Gordon, who's like been coaching through the American League. He's coached a lot he coached a little bit in the NHL with the Flyers, and he was the first year was him. I mean, the first game was him. He got beat. And then we had Reels. He played the second, and they got beat. And then they scored on a goal from the red line to tie the game. I can remember like it was yesterday. Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah,
it's
it was.
just burned in your-
That was.
At least you've let it go. It doesn't bug anymore.
I can see Terry. I had a wide open net in overtime, a wide open net, and he came across and saved it. I was a sophomore in college. That was
Amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
my
funny that
gosh.
you got his pads. That's funny.
Like you know this is going to be a 5-hour episode, right? You guys are cool with that here? Because I just want to hear these stories the whole
I
time.
got a lot of those stories. Those are good stories.
I can only imagine. So, all right. So I obviously don't have you for that long, so I got to skip a little bit. But I got to tell you, like, just hearing that you played with those guys, Mike Richter is one of the reasons I'm a goalie. Chris Terreri is one of the reasons I'm a goalie.
Yeah.
And then you do turn pro, and you get into playing with Pittsburgh, and you end up on one of the most dynamic, one of the best teams probably in the history of the NHL.
Yeah.
And playing on a line. Tell me a little bit about like your first experience in that locker room.
Yeah, that was it was amazing because Mario had been there like 4 or 5 years. I think he came in like 3 years before I got there, and I got there after the Olympics in '88 in February. I went into Pittsburgh, and that was kind of. I played like 17, 18 games that year. We didn't make the playoffs. We got beat right at the end and didn't make the playoffs. And then I went the next year. I got sent down for like 20 to 30 games. It was new management and stuff. But then I came back into Pittsburgh, and that's when it kind of. Craig Patrick was the general manager, and you come into that room, and I remember when I got called up from Pittsburgh toward the end of the year. That last. And I can remember walking, and I hear on the intercom that Mario just scored his 89th goal a year. That's all I remember when I got called. I remember that as long as I lived. I heard 89. I remember that he got his 89th goal a year. Imagine 89.
No pressure on you though, right?
And, then from there, I just kind of came in and just kind of took off. We had Craig was building a team. We had 7, 8, 9, 10 guys coming in like the same time, and it was just an amazing run. We had great teammates. I had the better, the trainers were great. Everything. When I got to Pittsburgh, it just kind of fell into place. And I didn't play with Mario White, right? The first 2 years, I played my first year with Johnny Cullen, who was an amazing player. He played at BU. I played against him all through college, so I knew him, and we were friends. And we got there, and we were best friends. And I played on a line with him and Mark Recchi, another guy that was just coming in too. So we were all coming in together. We lived together off the ice. We lived together. We were together 24 hours a day, basically, and just things just kind of happened, and and then we just kind of built up to 1991, and then we were lucky enough to win the Cup in '91, which was like you said, it's so the old Patrick division. Like, when you get to the point where, like, all you have to the best thing I ever had, like, when you have to get up in the morning, all you have to worry about is go beat the Rangers or go beat the Devils. That's when your life's pretty good, right? That's when life's pretty good. When you grab a coffee in the morning, and all you're worried about, how can we beat the Rangers? And you get in a locker room with 20 guys and 4 coaches. You shut the door, and it's like, let's try to figure out how to do this thing, And we did it, and we did it well for a while. Then I was on the power plays with Mario and stuff like that. Then after the first year, I played with Mario, and I played with Ronnie Francis for a long time too. Ronnie, what do you have? 1,800 points. He's like the 5th leading scorer of all time in the league. So it's kind of like I played with some pretty good centermen. I can tell you that much. I was very fortunate. Very, very lucky and fortunate, and have getting the opportunity because. The one thing I could do, I could score goals. I could, I was, and then guy, you want the centerman because they're good enough centermen to tell the coach I want to play with you. That's basically Mario. Pretty much picks his line mates. He was, he's one of those.
I can see why.
He's one of those guys. You just got to be ready to go. If you're ready to, these guys want to get 200 points, right? He wants to lead the league, and he wants to break records. And the thing you have to do, you have to show up ready to play. If you show up and you're ready to play, and it's such a great atmosphere to be around when you can win almost every game. You go in. There's a lot of times when you go into games on different teams I've been on that weren't gonna. It's gonna be tough to win. But when you have a team that you can win with, and you go into every city and every game, and everybody wants to beat you, and you can beat them, that's when it's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah,
that reminds me of those Russian teams that you're talking about, because those Russians have that same, look, we don't care where we are, who you are, we're coming in and win.
Yeah, and that's what we did. We had a great bunch of guys off the ice. We had fun. We did everything, but we wanted to win. We wanted to win on Saturday night, so we knew we had Sunday off, so we could go out Saturday night. So, let's win Saturday. You wanted to win because you wanted to spend time with your teammates. And it was a special group of guys, a special team, and like I said, we went 91, 92, we went back to back. 93 was our best team we had. That was by far. I think we won 17, 18 games in a row that year. That's when the ties, you play 5 minutes, you don't score at the tie.
Right.
There's a lot of ties back then,
Yeah.
Now, we won 18 games in a row without a tie, And I think we had 127 points, and it's just, we got beat by the Islanders in game 7. In '93, we're going for our three-peat, which we should have, thought we were going to get, but they beat us game 7. I remember game 6 like it was yesterday. It was in Long Island, and we're up 4-2 after 2 periods, and it's like, we got to shut them. We got to win this thing so we can, we don't have to play game 7. They come out, they bang in 4 goals in the third. They beat us 6-4. So now we got to go home to Pitt and win game 7, and that's we went in that game and. First shift, that's when I had a bad injury. Then I broke my face. That was the first shift of game 7. I got a penalty 10 seconds into the game with another guy. So we went off the ice. And I come out of the penalty box. I went around. I hit a guy, and I smashed heads with him. And I ended up hitting the ice, and I ended up breaking all the bones in my face. So I played literally 25 seconds that game, and I was out. I wasn't going to be able to play the rest of the playoffs, but I was hurt. So, But we lost that game. We outshot them like 42-17. Healy was the goalie for the Islanders. He made unbelievable saves. I remember being in the hospital. We're down 3-1. We pull our goalie. We score 2 when we pull our goalie. So now it's 3-3, game 7. Like, amazing game, right? And now David Volek scores in double overtime. He hasn't been out there in like 3 hours. He wasn't playing much. He comes off the bench. He gets
the secret weapon.
He comes off the bench. He gets a puck on the right sidewall and takes a one-time, and it goes through about 3 guys and goes over Barasso's shoulder. And next thing you know, it's lights out with guns.
I think that goal, I know the goal you're talking about, and I think you see it every once in a while. They play it all the time. I can tell you're seeing it right now. But
it was so torturous. It was like one of those things that you're like, and you're always at that point. You're like, did that really go in? It's like, is this over? You know, it's like you're kind of like, I was in a hospital bed and I was like, is this over? Like, did we just lose? You know, like, we just lost. It's over.
Because you'd had that, I mean, just unbeatable.
We had unbeatable.
And Barasso would have been unscoreable.
He was
like, and that just a fluky game.
Fluky goal. But it all comes back to Game 6, you know?
Yeah.
And we always talk about it now. You know, it's the same thing. It's how do we let them come back in Long Island, which, you know, that was a hard place. The Islanders always gave us fits because they had Kasperitis, who drove Mario crazy. You know? You know? So it's like they had guys that drove us crazy. But there's always, like, in every cup year, there's always, like, series that, like, you got to come back. You have adversity and you win somehow. Like, you know, I remember playing the Devils when we're down 3-2. We had to go in there. And the first year we won the cup, we had to beat the Devils in New Jersey. Well, they were loaded with players. Like
Brodeur, the other Stevens,
Niedermeyer, Lemieux. They had all these guys. Danico, Driver. They had a great team, and we had Mario out. We had Coffey out. We had Barrasso out. We had 5 guys out that weren't playing that night. And Mario, Barrasso, and Coffey are 3 of our better big you know. So
best players in the NHL.
And we go in and we beat them somehow 4-3. You know, our backup goalie makes saves, like, you know, pucks. You know, just one of those games where you win and you try to figure out how you win. And then we go home in Game 7, we win 4-0. You know, it's just
was that Reggett?
Yeah, Reggett. No, it was Frank Pietrangelo.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, Reggett was with us, though.
Yeah, okay.
Frank Pietrangelo played that game. He made some saves that were unbelievable, and we got by it. And then, you know, I remember down 3 games, one to Washington was so good. You know, all those Patrick Division teams, the Rangers. I remember the series when they slashed Murray, broke his hand, Grace, you know, and then, you know, Francis scores on a shot from the red line that hits the backboard, it hits Richter's foot and rolls in the net somehow, and it goes to overtime. We win that game. There's so many games that, you know, those series could have gone either way. Like, the teams were so close, and we all had great teams, but it was just, it was amazing run. The Pittsburgh team, that was quite a great bunch of guys. Like, you know,
that was my introduction to hockey. Really, like, but the first hockey game I've ever watched, and I'm sure my audience is sick of hearing me say this. The first hockey game I ever saw was Philadelphia and Edmonton in the playoffs. So I got to watch Fuhrer and Hextall go at it. Yeah. And then the next couple of years in high school, I graduated high school in '91, so I was watching you guys, and as I was playing, and I was just blown away. And now I look back, and I just feel so honored that I got to see that kind of hockey. Yeah. And when you listen to Gretzky look back, and he's talking about how, like, Lemieux and Messier are the best players he's ever played with. Yeah. Those are guys that you knew where they were going to be. Yeah. They knew where they should be. Yeah. And they basically just will you. Yeah. Like, they wanted you to be somewhere, and you just kind of picked up on that. And
that's the truth, because those guys, you know, everybody says, "Oh, it must be so easy to play with Mario." It's not easy to play with those guys because, first of all, you better show up to play every night. Yeah. Second of all, you know, they're that good they don't have to pass you the puck. You know, I can only say about 2 or 3 guys that ever played. They're that good that can say, you know what. If I'm going to pass and you blow this thing wide, and then for the 3rd straight time, the 4th time you're not getting it. Yeah. I can tell you that right now. And they're just that good, you know.
I saw that with Tom Brady the other day. Tom Brady was like talking about a game, and a receiver dropped the ball. Yeah. They go, "You're going to go back. You got to throw to him right away to get him back in it." And Tom Brady goes, "No, not today. I already gave him a chance. He didn't work. I'm not going to him again. I'm going to somebody that's catching the ball. I'm not trying to get this guy back up to speed."
No, it's true. It's different how their mentality. You know, when they get and especially when they have teams they know they can win with, it's just, you know, their drive is. I can tell you one story about Mario that is the best story I've ever seen any hockey player ever do. He played 1 year. He didn't practice all year. His back was broken. They had like one of those shoe things where they had a kid come in and tie his skates and everything. He didn't practice 1 year at all, like not at all. He didn't even pregame skate, didn't do anything, and he had 164 points. You know, he only played games. Right?
Yeah, I remember.
Think about like you know, you guys all know as hockey players, if you take. I could take 1 day off. I had to be on the ice the second day. Like, you know, I couldn't, you know, if I was in the pro when I was in mid-season, in the season, you know, he didn't practice. He never practiced. He came in and get treatment and leave, and then he'd come back at night and say, I might try to play. He ended up playing. He said, I'll play the power play. He ended up playing the whole game, you know. He's like, you know, well, you know, that never worked. He always just said, I'm just going to play the power play. He can't even walk. And he planned on playing the whole game, but he just did that for, you know, year in and a year out, and, you know.
But can you imagine, like, how good he was, how good his statistics are across his career? Yeah. If he didn't have cancer, if he didn't have that back injury, like, I remember he probably owns every record.
Yeah, I remember him walking in Philly. We didn't know he was going to play. He got his last treatment that morning for his cancer. I remember taping my stick in the Spectrum. It was like 4:30 in the morning. I see this 4:30 in the afternoon. I see this guy, him, walking up with his bag on his shoulder, walking up. You know, there's a walkway in Philly where the bus goes to Zamboni, and I see this guy with two sticks, and a bag on his shoulder. It was him. He flew in at 4:30. He just got his treatment. He came and played that night. He had a goal, and it says I remember it because I was like, I don't know how he's going to do this. He just had his last treatment, you know, and he said I'm going to go play, and he flew in by himself. He got there, and some of the stuff is amazing. Some of the stuff I saw stuff with him with.
What an inspiration, though.
Yeah,
like, what an amazing human being.
Yeah, he's a great guy, too. He's one of those guys. He's a quiet guy, but he's an amazing guy. He's you know, do anything for you. Like, he's just one of those guys. It's really, he's been there for good and bad for a long time, you know.
How crazy is it to you that Jágr's still playing?
Yeah, that's crazy. Jágr's a different breed. I was there a couple, what was it, last year or the year before when we retired as Never in Pit, and he's just his own guy. That's another guy that just ticks his own time bomb there. He's he enjoys life the way it's supposed to be. You know, he's one of those guys that just another great player, another guy that just, you know, I'm so lucky. You know, how do we get Jágr? Like, you know, how in Pittsburgh? Well, how do we get him? You know, it's kind of like, you know, and he just comes in. And first 2 years we won the Stanley Cup, and he was on the third line those years. Remember? That's like. He's him on the third line. Like when has he ever played on the third line? Like, you know? He played both years with Trottier, who was on Trottier, another guy, Hall of Famer, came to us, and he was our third line center. You know, and he was amazing with Jágr. You know, Jágr. I think he got 19 to 20 goals, but he didn't score a ton of goals for us year. But he got big goals for us. You could tell he was going to be a stud right from, like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
He has big moose. They could skate. You could never get the puck from him, you know. It's like,
I just remember seeing him come in. And at some point, and tell me if you feel like this way now with any of the teams, because at some point, like, Pittsburgh wasn't any good, and then all of a sudden they were phenomenal, and they were unbeatable. Yeah. And I noticed this in my communities is people, like, were diehard Penguins fans, and then all of a sudden they were like over it, and they're like, "No, we need them to lose. We need them to lose." And I'm like, "They just got that Jágr, dude. I can't see him losing for a while."
It's hard. Like we're in that position. I still work with the Penguins, you know. So it's still we're in a tough spot right now because, you know, you got Crosby, who's
tons of rumors about that right now. Yeah, can we talk about any of that?
Yeah, those rumors are crazy. That's crazy.
Business starts a bad.
Yeah, those rumors are all. Crosby's not good. You know, he's not going anywhere unless he comes to the GM and says, you know what, trade me, you know. Yeah. But he doesn't. He hasn't got to that point. I know that he wants to finish his career in Pittsburgh, but it's just those are just rumors that someone puts it out there and it goes crazy.
Well, you get clicks.
Yeah,
you get clicks. Yeah. I was going to start a rumor that Utah was going to sign Jonathan Taves.
Yeah, that'd be a good
Why not?
one.
Right? I'll get a bunch of clicks.
Yeah, that's a heck of a. Yeah, I would put that out there too. Who knows, right?
He says he's coming back. Colorado wants him. Winnipeg wants him.
Yeah, he seems like that.
We've got cap space.
Yeah, when you look at like Colorado, Winnipeg would be perfect fits for him, right?
Oh,
you know, those teams are ready to win now. You guys out here are going to win pretty soon, but it all depends how quick it's going to be for you guys here. But you guys got great young players. Everybody, you got to start somewhere, like, you know. And we're on the other side in Pittsburgh right now because our older guys are our best. We've won 3 cups with them, right? So it's kind of like, you know, now they're kind of getting to that age where they can't carry the team, right? They can't. They used to be able to carry a line, carry a team, carry, like, you know. now we're at the point where they can't carry the team by themselves like they used to be able to do, And now it's catching up to us, right? Everybody has to go through it. You try not to go through it. You don't want to go through it, but it's reality, right?
Because you're not going to draft high.
Yeah.
If you're winning all the time, you're not going to draft high. And for us, for Utah, it's been very interesting to go from a podcast with 4,000 to 14,000 listeners to all of a sudden, 40,000.
Yeah.
Last week, thanks to some creative production, we hit 114,000 views and stuff. So it's there's a new audience that you have to explain.
Yeah.
No, there's a building process. They're like, no, we're going to go out and get Crosby right now and we're going to win. We're like, no, because there's steps you have to take, and you'll be good for a long time.
Yeah.
You're going to suck now.
Yeah.
You're going to battle now. You might make the playoffs. You might not make the playoffs. Then you're going to be good for a long time if it works.
Yeah.
And then eventually the wheels are going to fall off, right?
I think you guys are doing. I think they're doing it the right way here. I think it's a really with Cooley and Keller. You got some really good young players. Like Cooley could be.
Cooley's phenomenal.
He could be one of the better players in the league pretty soon here.
What do you think? I see him getting bullied around a little bit.
Yeah,
is that something he can?
Yeah,
do we bring in somebody to take care of that, or does he have to?
You like to have people take care of that. He doesn't have to take. He shouldn't have to take care of it, but he's going to have to stick up for himself a little bit. That's just But the game's changed. He's not going to get bullied like if he was playing when I was playing. It'd be a whole different ball game, and he'd have to do something. We'd have guys to take care of him. So it'd be all right. But he's. He's a good young player. Like you guys have a bright future. I like your defensive core, like guys now. They're pretty good. It just
you're a fan of Ian Cole still. He's a Penguin.
I have always liked him. Like he's just a winner too. And he seems to go to teams. He doesn't just go to teams because he's no good. He goes to teams because they want him. That's like there's a difference. There's guys that toward the end of their career that just end up at teams. Just to kind of end up at teams. He ends up teams because he's a piece of something. And he can play. He plays a hard game.
Man, I watch the beating he takes every game. He eats a ton of minutes.
Yeah,
he blocks a ton of shots.
Like
he hits everybody he has to hit.
There's 4 or 5 guys like him in the league. That kind of guys that teams that are close.
Yeah.
Want him. Because he can help. He's a playoff guy. He's a warrior. He's a bull. He's kind of like. Like Gudis and like all those guys that kind of like can help you out down the stretch and help you win. But he's, you guys got a pretty good thing going here. It's just, but there's 31 to whatever the team, they all want to win.
Right.
Like everybody, no one wants to lose, right?
Right.
So it's like everybody can't. It's so hard to win. That's the hardest thing to win. It's so hard to win the cup because there's so many good teams.
If you were the GM for Utah right now and you could make one move, you don't even have to say a player. Just a position. Would you bring in another center?
Yeah. Probably like I think you throw like it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to like exactly say what Obviously, you'd like to have a scoring center, or a second line center, a winger. Like you got Keller and you got Cooley, and you want to play them together. What do you want? It's kind of like where you want to put these guys. But you really need 3 lines that can kind of score. And your 4th line can play, but if they score 2, then you really can win. It's kind of like Florida's built a team where they have the 4 lines. They have the top 2 lines that are great.
Oh, yeah.
But then they got Lundell and they got Rodriguez. They got guys in the bottom 6 that proven they can score in the playoffs.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell when they don't have their it's hard to tell which line's out there.
Yeah.
Unless you're reading names. Yeah. The pressure seems like it's the same. It seems like they're always a threat.
Yeah, they're always playing hard. Yeah, it's
they all also seem like they're a checking line.
Yeah,
they all seem to hit.
Yeah, and it's just the way it is. Like when you have, when you have a 3rd or 4th line that can check and score, those are the teams that can get over the hump because your top 2 lines have to score. Like if they don't score, you're gonna get knocked out. But if you get the 3rd and 4th line to chip in and score, then you got a chance to move on and play. Because. They might be able, that 3rd line gets 2 or 3 goals one night. They win that 3rd game for you. Like they can win a game for you.
Oh yeah, yep.
That was a huge because it's hard to win 4 games in playoffs. Like everybody wants to win. The other team doesn't want to lose either. So I get a kick out sometimes when people ask how because the other team's good too.
Right. This is the NHL. There are no easy games.
No one's easy. So
and then like you brought up, and the saying I've heard a lot of goalie coaches say this, that a goalie can't win you the game, but they can definitely lose you a game. I don't believe that, and I think the statements you made earlier, goalies can steal games.
Yeah. No,
And-
goalie, I think goalies are really important. Like, look at the goalies that win, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're always the MVP. Either they're the MVP or they're the second guy that's the MVP. Like, when we won, Mario was, but Barrasso could have easily been the MVP. You know, we had, like Mario got it because Mario's Mario and he got goals and he scored, got a lot of, but Barrasso, if we didn't have him, we don't win any of those cups,
Yeah. No, for sure.
None of them, know? So it's kind of like, and I think you can go right down the line, with Richter and New York. Like any of those teams that won,
No.
the goalie's the MVP. He's got to steal, he's got to make saves that he's not supposed to make, and that's
100%. Yeah.
And if you do that, you get a chance to move on. Because to win 4 rounds, it's torture, it's because if the 8th team, you see it in hockey all the time. The 8th beats 1. It's not even like a.
Yeah, well,
guys that know hockey don't even shake their head. Like it's like
Utah loves that because we have our Trevor Lewis that was an eighth seed going in with the Kings, and Jonathan Quick got hot.
Yeah. It's all and then the team believes, and then once you stop believing, and then you have good players. Like everybody, and as you go further in the playoffs, you become playoff savvy or whatever they say it is. I was always I always scored a lot in the playoffs. Some guys have trouble scoring. Like I think the first year I had 17. I remember I had 17 goals the first year, and I needed 1 to tie the record. And we won the last game 8-0. I didn't get a goal. I had 17 in 23 games, and we win 8-0. And you can't, I wasn't even thinking about it, but you usually chip one in somewhere.
Right?
8-0 game, when you're scoring a lot. But it's, if you can score in the playoffs, it's pretty. You get a pretty good tag on you,
That's amazing. Again, I know your time's limited, and these are my favorite episodes where I get to really just talk about hockey.
Yeah, it's good.
Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now and how it came about, and then we'll introduce Aaron and we'll get everything.
Yeah. Well, today, I'm out here in Utah today just with Aaron. I have a foundation in Boston. It's called Power Forward 25. It helps. I went through a problem with addiction toward the end, in the middle of my career, and I got hurt. Then I got stuck on some stuff, and things happened, and it took me down a path that I obviously didn't want to happen. Like I was 20 years old, never knew what a drug or anything was, and I took pain pills, and then I tried cocaine. So I did things that activated this brain I have, and I got stuck in this addiction pattern, which, like I said, I had no idea how it all happened. I'm not going to sit here and tell the whole story. But it happened, and then, like you can see, I had 7 great years, and I hit this addiction thing, and I had 7 painful years. I had 7 years that were a struggle,
Oh.
And that happened. That the reason that all took part is because I got stuck in this addiction thing, which I didn't know it was addiction then, but now that I know it, it is. And so now I have a foundation where we help people. I always thought I went to treatment a few times, 4 or 5 times really. I went and I never got it. And I finally got it. And now what my foundation does, and what we're out here trying to help Aaron do too, is I help people when they go to treatment. They have when they get out of treatment, where do they go? Most people, when you get out of treatment, I was lucky enough because I was still playing hockey and I had enough money to go home, and I had enough, I had friends, I always had a place to go.
Right.
But I've talked to a lot of people. I know a lot of people don't. When they go into treatment, they lose everything. Everybody, you wear everybody out. You lose everything. Addiction's a very, very tough disease, and they don't have anywhere to go. So what we do is we give out scholarships to people coming out of treatment. We give them like 6 weeks to go to a sober house where we'll pay for them to go to a sober house, and they can kind of get their life back on track and try to get their life started again. Because if you go to treatment for 30 or 60 days, it's pretty easy to stay clean in the treatment place because you're locked up and stuff.
Right.
So when you get out, that's the place. You can't go back to the same place you were at. Like you hear a lot of people. I'm going home, or I'm going to my buddy's house. But your buddy's still using drugs or still doing the same thing he was doing when you left 30 or 60 days ago. So we try to help them transition into their life, which
and some of those houses, it's really hard to get into. One, and they're expensive.
They're expensive. Yeah. They're like, and like I said, people don't have the funds to do it anymore because they've worn everybody out, and they've spent almost everything. You know, if you have $10, you have 10 million. If you're stuck in addiction long enough, you're going to spend it all. It doesn't matter. It's just a disease that keeps taking until you have nothing. You know, until you stop.
Yeah,
it.
You burn all your bridges. You burn all your money,
bridges, everything. And I thought, and when I got sober, like 11 years ago, was, you know, my sister had just retired too, so we kind of said, you know, what can we do? And I was able to put our foundation together. Then Aaron came in, and he started like a Power for Utah, and he can kind of tell you a little bit about what that's all about.
Yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself? And like, we know each other, but
right. I can't believe. So I'm Aaron James. I'm a Utah resident, and I'm father of 2 hockey players here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting here with a little bit of permagrin. You know, Kevin and I, just with the foundations being sort of sister organizations, have interacted some, but I've never had the opportunity to really sit here and just listen to you go on your hockey career. And man, I'm wildly underqualified to even hop in that conversation because my head, with as a dad, you know, bringing boys into hockey was, you know, the Salt Lake Learn to Play program, the Salt Lake County, you know, youth hockey program, high school hockey, and then into the various, you know, A-level hockey programs that Utah had to offer. And
right.
Yeah, and I can't, Jay, I have to say, when I figured out who you were, that you had done some private coaching with my son. This conversation's really, it's a really great to see you. Great to see where you're at.
And we've wondered about you and your family. My son played with your son, and yeah, we've wondered about you. I don't know how much of the story you want to tell, or, you know, this is totally up to you. We can be real brief. We can just talk about.
Well, I'll tell you some of the good parts.
I think
Kevin, first of all, he said it took him 5 hard times. And I will tell you, Kevin, that number is equal with about everybody else who goes through the same thing. This is addiction's a serious conversation to have, and it's I think, as Kevin pointed out, you know, the hockey part of this conversation is really easy to have, and then going into this conversation, whether it be individual for Kevin's specific situation or me talking about my son, is deeply personal. And dare I use the word vulnerable?
Yeah, for sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But so Kevin came to us in 2022 and offered to a scholarship in Zane's name. And we were learning, you know, my son passed away in 2018. And so my family, we were really in a spot. My son's passed away, you know, my wife, my family, we're looking for a meaning. Yeah. And when Kevin and Kelly came to us, we were taken back that someone would take the time to find us and offer a scholarship in my son's name. Again, this is coming from the situation we'd been through with my son Zane and his addiction. Dare I use the word, we were embarrassed about it, but it's just something we didn't talk about. And when you have something like Power Forward come into your life, it's like a great big bright spot opens up, and all of a sudden you're like, we can do something about this.
I think how we met him was, I think my sister put a card in your mailbox. I think that's the first time my sister had heard about it, you know, what had happened. And she was out here in Utah. She lives in Bob, but she had heard what had happened. And then she said, "Here," she put a little thing in the mailbox. And I think that's how we first connected, something like that. And they responded.
Well, that's great that you guys were out looking. And I just want to talk a little bit about what you just said about like maybe being too embarrassed to talk about it or whatever. And I got to tell you, so I have I've been a paramedic for 26 years now, 25 years, and in the fire service for 27. And I not only see the bad part of it, you know, with the people on the streets and the overdoses, and I've watched the different variations of overdoses over my career, whether it's been through, you know, I started, it was meth, and now it's definitely fentanyl, carfentanil, and I've watched it destroy lives. And we go in and we try to have conversations, and it's nobody cares what a paramedic wants to say at those minutes. The patient doesn't care, the parents don't care. But I've always wondered, it seems like a lot of the family is surprised that it's happening. The parents know, the siblings know, but maybe the uncles don't know or something. Yeah. Is that a Utah thing, or is that an everywhere thing?
Well, I think Kevin alluded to it a little bit, that he had never really had any, you know, call it a background with drugs or something, but it's something that just snuck up on him. And I would say the same thing for Zane, and very similar to Kevin's situation. Zane was playing his high school year his senior high school year, was playing juniors hockey up in the Northwest, and he got injured late in the season, on-ice injury, TBI. We recovered from that, did like a 4-game sit-out, got clearance from the doctor, came back, and within the second game, he'd suffered another TBI, and the doctor were like, no way, man, he is beat up. He needs to just sit the rest of the season out. And within 3 months of Zane coming off the ice with his traumatic brain injury, he was addicted to opioids. And this is something that a doctor gives you.
Yeah.
Within 9 months of the injury, he was doing heroin. And within 18 months of his injury, he was dead. And so
Jeez.
you can imagine what a family's going through.
Yeah.
With all this is happening real time, you're looking for answers, you're looking for spaces. And honestly, Jay, it's not something you just go tell all your relatives because there's a lot of real bad animosity with addiction. And that's part of the program that Kevin put together is this, let's destigmatize the whole entire conversation so families can talk about it and we can tell the uncles and maybe get some experience or some feedback from them.
Yeah, and Aaron's exactly. Jay, the best thing I can do when I go out and speak, I speak a lot to the kids in schools, and I just tell the truth what happened to me. One night I was in New York City. I decided to try cocaine one night. I was a first-team All-Star. I had won back-to-back Stanley Cups. If you wanted someone's life, you wanted my life. I was playing with Lemieux on the left side. And for some reason, I tried cocaine one night. I'm 20 years old. I had no idea why. I made a 20-second decision. I made a choice that night.
No.
And from that, it didn't. My life changed for the next 24 years. It didn't happen that night, didn't you? But that decision I made changed the path of my life. If I don't make that decision, who knows if I'm sitting here? But that's what addiction is. And the biggest thing that I can do is I can just go out and tell the truth what happened to me. This is what happened to me. I didn't know, it doesn't pick and choose who this goes after. Like I had no inclination of anything about addiction. I didn't even know. Like I thought I'd do that cocaine that night and I'd jump in the bus the next day and life would go on. Life would be, but it changed like slowly and painfully down the road. And it was because of that night. And all I can do is go out and tell my story, how it happened to me. I know it happened to anybody else that way, but this is how, if you make a bad choice or a decision, now it's death, because it's the fentanyl, and it's all fentanyl. You see it because you work in it, and it's just sad. But it's important that we, like Aaron and me, we get this out there because it needs to be talked about because it needs to be like. And the best thing I can do if I talk to an auditorium with 300 kids. There's 200 of them that don't want to listen, but something they're listening and they hear something they might hear, and I think that's important. That makes me worth to go out there and do it, even though sometimes they might want, but there's that kid that's struggling that doesn't tell anybody that his mother or father are hurting or his brother, and he hears something that might help him, react to a situation to help his friend or help him get through another day. And it's just, we have to get it out there because. It is a hard thing to talk about for a lot of family. It is. It's hard.
It is. And I think you know that. I think a lot of people feel embarrassed about. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah,
my kid's doing drugs now.
Yeah.
And I do see that a lot. And the one thing I preach, because I get a lot of time in front of kids to talk to them, whether it was through coaching or through whatever, I always tell them that basically what you're saying is it takes one time to trigger those, whatever receptors it is, whether you're doing opioids or narcotics or whatever it is, it takes the one time. So you think you're just going to try it and then that's it. And then your body requires it basically. Yeah. Yeah. And then it can destroy your whole life. The crazy thing about this is, like I said, I've been doing this podcast forever. And the last couple months, I keep getting people reaching out saying, hey, can you talk about addiction in hockey? Can you talk about stuff? So we're lucky. We have one of the world's top sports psychologists, Dan Freegain, who's willing to, he's with USA Hockey, he's with USA Soccer, he's the guy. And he's willing to come on and talk to us. And we had him on just recently, and he said some stuff, and he touched a lot of nerves, and a lot of emails came out, and they said, okay, This is what I want to hear from Dr. Freegain, and I'm sure this is what people are going to want to hear from you. How do I know I'm in trouble? How do I know I'm addicted? How do I know my friend is addicted or in trouble? And how do we get help? So how can we help you guys with your organization? How can we help people that are addicted?
Kevin, you want to take a crack at it? Or you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go. If you want, I'll finish it.
How do you know you're addicted? That is a really tough question. I mean, there's a lot of substance use disorder is widespread. It's from alcohol, NyQuil. There's a lot of things that people do that aren't heroin. And unfortunately, as individuals, when we get ourselves in situations like that, we oftentimes cover it up. So your mom, your dad, your friend might not necessarily know about it, but at some point in time, your friend will know, or your mom and dad will find out. And like we did with our son, we had no earthly idea that he would be doing heroin, not at all. But he got arrested, and then a really serious conversation started after that. And thankful for him, in all of his hockey training, he was honest with us. He was mentally acute, very aware. So it changed our conversation to real honest dialogue. And I think that's the part. People just have to get scared of the fact that, well, you're not this dirty addict. Something happened to you, and you're in a situation that you can't possibly escape without help. And it's hard as a person to say that. I can't get out of this myself.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's the path that addiction takes you down. And having the trust in your family and friends that if you do ask for help, that they're going to be there to support you.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's such a tricky thing. Addiction is because no one really knew about addiction. Like when I was an addict, it's progression, right? You don't just become an addict. Like it's progression. You try it, okay, you like it, then you try it, 2 weeks later, until it grabs you, then you're stuck, right? And then you're into a problem. And I think the tail signs of that is it's just the lying, the non-trust things, right? The things that you can pick up on as a parent is it doesn't always happen though. You can't you can't tell till they get over that hump, where they're addicted. But it's a tricky situation, it's a tricky disease, but it needs to be the best thing that I say. It needs to be talked about. Like you need to. And you as a parent, you got to be willing to see. If you see someone, they've got to be willing to ask their son. They need to talk about it. It can't be just like, it's not my kid. He's not using drugs. He's not because it's what, it's not. It's out there, right? It's not like it just happens. And when I was 1,000. When I tell you. I used to get up in the middle of the night and ride my stationary bike because no one else was doing it, And I used to do things to be a hockey player that no one else would do. I know they were sleeping, so I know I'd get an edge, and I knew it. And when this happened, I didn't. All that changed, It just took and took and took. And when I tell you, when I was 1,000,000% into hockey, all I did eat, sleep, and breathe hockey before this happened. And I tell you this, you think this would ever happen to me? Like I would ever have let this, and I didn't let, I have that thing that I activated. Like and my friends would say, Kevin, cocaine, he never did, BC, there was a ton of cocaine, he never did anything. Like, he's always like this,
Right.
But I ended up trying, I made a 20-second decision that night that changed the path of my life. And I think, we have to make the right choice. We have to hang around positive people. I made a choice that night, I don't know why I made that choice. I have no idea why, because I didn't think.
No. You're just at a party and everybody else is doing it. And it just seems like, I'm in the NHL. Why don't I try something?
Nothing about anything addiction. I didn't even know I knew nothing. All I knew was about hockey, playing hockey. Nothing could ever stop me. I'd be 100. All I want to do is be the best player, best teammate, best friend. And it took all of that away from me. Yeah.
This is if Zane could be here with us right now, it's exactly Zane's conversation.
Because it takes, right? I didn't want that. I didn't want to be an average hockey player. I didn't want to turn into a player that had this mental, I can be average. That's what it did to me. It took everything that I worked my whole life for, and it turned my brain into this thing that, let me just be average.
Was there ever a time that a coach said, "Hey, you're an addict, or you're doing something wrong. Let's help you," or do they just?
Yeah, I had like I said, I've had guys try to help me, but addiction's such a tricky thing. Like when I went into treatment, when I was playing with the Rangers, I was playing with Pittsburgh, and they said, "You got it, Kevin. You're struggling. You're going into treatment, whatever." And I went in, but all I cared about was getting out and playing hockey. That's when I went into treatment those times. Now that I see it now, And if there's anything I can say, that you need to have a program. You need to be around other people that are trying to get sober. You need to have a little bit of. I use Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I do. I have friends that are trying to do the same thing I do. I use them. I lean on them. I didn't have enough support. I didn't have any support when I came back to play. All I cared about was lacing my skates up and going out there playing. And didn't think of how hard it was to stay sober. It's so hard for an addict.
So you went through it 4 or 5 times. What do you think it was that finally clicked?
You know what? It's so hard. Like for me, it's like I try to figure, why did it work?
Yeah.
Like I got arrested the last time I got sober. I went to jail for like a little bit, whatever. But that was by far not the worst thing that happened to me. Yeah. Not even close. Like I lost my family. I had all these things happen to me, and I couldn't get sober. Like it was that strong. It was that powerful. People like say, well, what do you like? They don't understand. You can't just say, don't do it. Right. An addict.
Right.
You know? It's just, you don't get it. And I get my family. I get Aaron. I get all the families that are saying, stop. But it's not that easy for addicts.
I think it's part of like being human is you just want to continually overanalyze of what could I have done here to change that there. Yeah. But I think part of the understanding is if you do, like if a person does find themselves in a situation, or a parent with a child, like in our case, is understanding there's going to be relapse. And they're going to go back into using drugs. They're going to come back to you on Tuesday and be like, Mom, Dad, I am freaking done doing this. Help me. We go through the exercise of helping, and then 2 weeks later, we're in a relapse. Now, as a parent, you're like pissed.
Yeah.
Like, you idiot. What are you doing? Right. That takes some learning. Yeah. And to Kevin, like I'm sitting here watching you analyze where you're at and why did you stop at one point in time. The fact is it's going to take a lot of turns of the crank to get it. And I think what can we do? Like as those people who aren't in the situation as your loved one or your kid or your brother, is just let them show up when they put their foot over the threshold and say, I'm ready, I'm done with this, I'm exhausted, I've burnt every bridge, I've spent every dollar. You just have to be there with open arms and say, okay, what can we do?
Yeah, and
that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, and
it's a huge ask.
It
is a lot to ask.
It's huge for family to ask, right? I've heard like all my friends. Mario sent me a plane before to go to treatment, and I still relapsed. He gave me a job. I lost that Pittsburgh job 3 times when he was the owner, He hired me back again, It's like, how many times, but the biggest word that we can all say right now, it's hope, right? You have to keep the hope, because when is this kid going to get it? When am I going to get it? Why is this guy get it and this guy doesn't get it, right? Like, why, when is that period? I don't know when, I wish we could snap our fingers and say, get it. I wish I could shake a couple of my friends now, right? And say, come on, just get this thing. But it's not that easy. And you have to, and that's why, when people call me for help, I help, because I literally think God kept me on this earth to help people get. So I know it is, because I should be dead 75,000 times over. It's not even it's not about, and hockey is great. I love working in hockey. But if someone calls me and needs help getting sober, I go help them. I don't care what time, when that's just what I'm here for. I know I am, because I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll tell you that, Kevin, every time I think of you, first of all, you're a giant hero for our family, because we look at you and think, my son could have recovered. He could have come out the other side and continued his hockey career. He could have been the dentist he wanted to be, or he could have been a father.
I know, man. I know. Yeah. It's tough for a hockey podcast to get this emotional, but what you're doing right now is important. And Kevin showing all this ownership and vulnerability, and you coming out here, honestly, if you can just get one person into this program that clicks this time, right?
That's it.
That's all.
What are your, Kevin, what are your, for Massachusetts, where are you guys at on, do you know the number of recipients you guys have?
Yeah, we've helped over 1,000, way over 1,000. We've helped a lot of people, and it's a lot of, and it's getting big. It's just it's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more, but it's just, we can only help. You need money, obviously. We all need money to help. That's what we do. We have foundations, and hope we get money to support all these things. But it's just there's such a need for help. This is addiction. I wish everybody has addiction. Sometimes you hear heroin.
It's a bad word.
Can anybody do heroin? What are you talking about? What do you mean? How can anybody? That's addiction. Doctors stuck in it. They've done.
Oh yeah.
It's not it just doesn't pick and choose who listen attacks.
I literally just took a doctor from his house.
Yeah.
That was overdosing too.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. I can't say anything other than that, but I can tell you that without violating HIPAA, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time.
Yeah.
And it happens, and you don't know how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's guilt associated with it. There's shame associated with it from the addict, from the family. And I come from a family of addicts.
Yeah.
I was super careful my whole life because of it.
Relapse.
Yeah.
Withdrawal.
All
things.
And all those things. And you hear the stories, and man, I see it so many times where that person came back to that house. They're not supposed to be back at that house, but they're desperate. They don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, they steal something and go relapse.
Yeah.
How can we help in Utah?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a really great question, and I want to expand on something Kevin said, and then I'll absolutely get to that answer.
For sure,
is that the cost of this? That is the big deal. So Kevin has a nonprofit set up so he can generate money to pay for these scholarships, and the exactly same thing that Power Forward in Utah does. Exact same program. That's the reason it's so simple. This particular piece of part of a recovery, like somebody who's in recovery, is not paid for by insurance. So you might be able to get some insurance dollars out of a 30-day or a 60-day residential treatment program, right? But when you exit that, the expectation is, well, go be sober, and you've burnt your bridges, you've spent your money, et cetera.
All of your habits, all of your life habits are based around doing a drug.
Right.
And now you're supposed to just walk out of rehab and ignore all those habits.
Right.
Find new friends. Find like people,
Yeah. So the idea is to give someone just a little breathing room when they come out. I think Kevin, you had said, one of your friends said the simplest thing to do would be this, and he did it. And that's the platform. And so what can we do? Number one, keep an eye on your loved ones, and please keep an open heart when these things start happening. I mean, as parents, you can get pretty upset about it. But spread the word. I mean, spread the word about Kevin's foundation. Spread the word about ours, Power Forward Utah. And
is that powerforwardutah.com?
That's it. Yeah, that's the website. And Kevin's is powerforward25.com. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's you can donate, and then more than anything else, put the time in, find the place for your kids. A lot of these things parents can do on their own, but I mean, I would encourage anybody, if you get stuck in a situation, to reach out to us. I mean, we've walked the path and can help in any way we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, and there are people pacing around outside, and apparently the studio's booked again. That's the problem with being in a major conglomerate, is that we have other really huge podcasts. But I would like to have follow-up, and I have a feeling this podcast will have a lot of traction. And again, Tegan's a great producer, and he's got some real good skills at making these things go far on social media. Nice. And like I said, I think with last week, just talking about hockey, got 114,000. I can't imagine this doesn't do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that I really hope this benefits you guys, and that we can get back together. And Kevin, I know you don't live here. We can Zoom, we can talk and catch up and just see how else we can help and how we can grow it in Utah. And we have listeners all over. So I would just like to help in any way we can, in any way KSL can, because these guys care, and we have an addiction podcast that's been doing okay, but we'd like to throw the full weight of KSL behind you guys and try to help you however we can.
That's awesome. You're doing great stuff. We appreciate it. Obviously, you're really doing great stuff. So it's been great. It's hockey stuff's all great. Real life stuff's great. So we just it's all good stuff, and you guys are doing great stuff. We appreciate you having us on.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. Aaron, keep in touch, will you?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I just want to my son and our family is a product of Utah hockey, and so I just want to put the word out there to parents, brothers, sisters, friends who are struggling with somebody. Have an open heart. Reach out. There is hope. You can. Your friend, your son, your dad can come out the other side of it and be okay.
We started this podcast talking about the friendships Kevin made. So I'm a little choked up. And that bond that you had with your teammates. Yeah. And that's why I think hockey is important. And I think that can help with addiction. I think having those people, like you said, Mario, sending a plane. Well, your rec friends can't send you a plane, but they can listen to you and they can
there's nothing
guide
better than
you.
having teammates. There's nothing better than being on a team with, it just, we all feel it. You feel it. You just feel that camaraderie. You feel everything. There's nothing better than being on a team and having that opportunity to be on a team. Take advantage of it. It's great. I love my teammates. I love that more than anything.
Well, thank you guys so much for what you're doing, and I wish you guys nothing but success.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Awesome.
You guys are awesome. And that is the Utah Puck Report. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Utah Puck Report. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, leave us feedback, let us know what you want us to do better. Big thanks to our sponsors, Only Crowns. Love having a dentist sponsor for the hockey podcast. Check them out at onlycrowns.com. Thanks to KSL Sports, the Utah Hockey Club, Madison Miller, and Tegan Stevens for producing. And thanks to the American Hitmen for that awesome intro song. We'll see you next week.